drew you to working at purpose-based organizations?
Interesting that you would ask me that. I think I began that whole thought about purpose-based organizations as far back as probably high school. I had been involved in organizations like the Boy Scouts and Young Aviators, and also had an opportunity because my mom ran a food pantry and delivered food to folks who were ill and also folks who were elderly. And in that, what I found was kind of a level of satisfaction that she got from it, as well as the people that she was helping. So I think early on I was thinking about either purpose-based organizations or at least mandated organizations to work with. So I went to college and undergraduate school. I majored in sociology. I had this thought of being a sociologist, and my interest in society and how different groups treated each other and treated themselves, and saw our country as just that, one big salad, different ideas, thoughts come together, and hopefully making what we call American society. So I think just early on I was drawn to purpose-based organizations, and I felt that that was my quote-unquote calling, if you will.
Nice, thank you. Who were the people that influenced you most?
Well, again, I'm a child of the 60s, as I often let people know, and we did more than just free love and music and drugs. We also cared about life and cared about our society, if you will. So as I look back, probably the people who had the most influence were some who were just a bit older than I, but were still peers. And I think a couple of famous ones that most people know about is Muhammad Ali and Martin Luther King. I think both of them, because both of them were truly advocates, they were committed to cause, and they certainly did not quit, they didn't give up. So I think that kind of drive and seeing those as examples that I could look at gave me that sense of how important it was to do what we do.
What role did your parents play in shaping who you are?
Oh, as I was saying earlier, I think, well, my folks were strong supporters of the NAACP and had been for a lot of years. And even when I was a small child, I remember them getting dressed to go to the events for the NAACP and how that was a big thing in our household. But even more than that, my dad was involved. He was a machinist, tool and die. And his thoughts and his involvement, I guess you could say, as far as what influenced me, was that he was a mentor for a lot of young men who were trying to get in the tool and die business. And in fact, my father passed about 7 years ago, and I remember at his funeral, several young men around my age and a little younger that came up to me and was expressing how much my dad had assisted them in their career. And also my mom, as I said, was truly a caregiver, not only in terms of our family, but our community and our relative base, if you will. As I said earlier, she was involved in food pantries and delivered meals before there was anything called a Meals on Wheels. So I would say those early influences of my dad and my mom, their influences, their involvement with nonprofit organizations that were about activism, and then being the era in which I grew up in, the 60s, and how important it was as we were all trying to find our place in society, and we were all convinced that we were going to change society. I don't know if we really changed it. I think we changed the prism, and that's about it.
What are your 3 most satisfying professional experiences?
Oh, satisfying professional experiences. Well, at one point in my career, I had the responsibility of placing special needs kids in residential placement. And I think one of the satisfying things was to be able to find placements for children whose needs were so extreme that you would think there was not an option for them to go anywhere. But I found some really strong folks, parents, if you will, who were trained and who were prepared to really assist. So I think that was one of them. If I look at another issue around in my career, I would say accessing, being involved in fundraising. When I first became involved in workplace fundraising, it would have been in my tenure with the National Black United Fund. What I found there, I was working in the Bay Area in California, and I was the executive director of that Bay Area Black United Fund affiliate. And one of the things we had been doing for years was trying to crack into the corporate community. And again, I was told it was impossible, it would be difficult, And one that I went after and everybody told me no was IBM, Old Blue as it used to be called. And even though IBM was difficult, what I learned in my past, the tenacity and not giving up, I continued to work with the regional offices in the Bay Area until we were able to open up that particular company for choice. And we not only did that for IBM, which was considered to be ahead of its time, because this we're talking about in the late 80s and early 90s, but we also were able to open up the AT&T the choice too at that time. So I think those, in terms of workplace fundraising, were key moments. The one here at America's Charities that I think was most impactful was probably early on when we were able to gain national eligibility, which meant before that time, to be involved in all of the campaigns that we're involved in the federal community, you had to apply for each individual campaign. We had petitioned the federal government, and we were able to really get them at a point of realizing that there were other organizations that needed to be part of the combined federal campaign. And in those organizations, it was much more than health and human services. And that to define just feeding, clothing, and emergency needs, and shelter as health and human services didn't define the needs in our community. So again, national eligibility was key, because then we could make one application and be involved in literally hundreds of CFC campaigns here at America's Charities, which changed our dynamic dramatically.
What would you tell young people today coming out of college about careers in the nonprofit sector?
Oh, careers in nonprofits. Interesting. I would say right now, the young people that I would talk with, millennials and whatever generation comes after that, I think it's important to be able to give back. Now, in some people's minds, that means giving money, others is giving time, and others is a bit of both. But I think careers in nonprofits is something that I think young people should pursue. I think technology has made a major impact on this field. And with that technology, it also has increased, I would say, the salary basis for this field. So I think it's an opportunity now to get bright young people who have embraced technology, who not necessarily are in fields that I grew up in. When I grew up, more of the nonprofits were people who were in the social fields, sociology, social work, psychology, school teachers. But now you're getting people who are coming out of school with advanced degrees in the various sciences, and certainly are finding ways to incorporate that because nonprofits need that. I've often said the only difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit organization is its tax status. It's important for both of the organizations to continue to have business plans and grow, and obviously meet the needs in our communities. So I'd say to young people, if you're moving into nonprofits, here's an opportunity to do good while you're doing well.
What are you most proud about in terms of your contributions to America's Charities?
I was talking earlier today with one of my colleagues who has been with the organization also as long as I have, since 1992. And obviously now it's 2014. If I look at the major accomplishments, the biggest accomplishment, I would say being on board with this organization during this development periods of time. When I started with America's Charities, we had roughly about 6 staff members on board. We now have 30 staff members who are working, and in some ways we probably use much more than that. If I looked at a major accomplishment, I would say, with the organization today, I would say probably it would be around my involvement as part of the group who changed the organization's name to America's Charities. Other than that, I would say that growth and development ongoing has been key, but I think that major piece is when we locked in that name, America's Charities. Before that time, it was very difficult for people to ascertain who we were and what we were unless they were involved with us. But America's Charities as a name just brought it all into perspective.
Most memorable moments of America's Charities?
Most memorable moments. My most memorable moment, because it's still the majority, I say 65% of the organization income, is when we came up with the phrase, the eagle has landed. The eagle has landed basically means, at that time, we have submitted the applications for sometimes over 100 different charities providing a broad number of needs, impacting individuals, communities, and families. And we've submitted that to the Office of Personnel Management for the Combined Federal Campaign, which literally raises millions of dollars for needs in our community here, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. So the Eagle has landed is a key for me.
What are you going to do in the next phase of your life?
The next phase. Oh, well, I've been told I have a voice that the microphone likes. So I am pursuing voiceover acting. But I'm also going to stay involved, obviously, in nonprofits. I started my career in the juvenile probation, as a juvenile probation counselor, and my intent is to kind of get back into some of that, but a little bit different. I was involved in an organization that was developed in the early 80s called Court-Appointed Special Advocates, or CASA. So my interest is probably getting back into that, helping young people and with their involvement in the courts, and certainly helping them kind of steer the best possible option for their needs at that particular time. And other than that, I'm just going to enjoy life.
What are you going to miss most?
Well, I think most I'd miss the camaraderie. What I've enjoyed, again, as I said earlier on, I'm a sociologist. I love people. I love talking with people. I love society. I love our differences and how we make up a whole. But what I miss most would probably be the camaraderie. Being involved with staff members, some who become friends over the years, and certainly have worked towards really trying to find ways to grow giving in our society, since that's what we do here at American Charities, and at the same time continue kind of those ongoing developing relationships. So I think the camaraderie is what I miss the most.